Well, good morning, everybody. Whoop, whoop, like Virginia Woolf said. Whoop, whoop, raise the roof, raise the roof. I saw some new names in here, or did you change your name? If you're new in here, besides Walking Dead Zombies, can you please let me know? Because she's always claiming to be new here, but she's been here for 4 years. Good morning, Jules. Good morning, True Crime Beat. Saw some people talking about their weather. It's going to be 80 degrees here today. And I'll be damned if I have to turn on the air conditioner. OJ will be sweating this one out because he loves temperature control. He loves it. But he's in the cat house right now. I was trying to call my friend Gina this morning. Call went through fine to see how her cruise went. You know, she went on that cruise, like around the Bahamas and stuff like that. She left out of Norfolk, Virginia. And I got a bunch of pictures from her, tried to call her, and she couldn't hear me. And I thought, well, her phone's always messed up, or she could be in a bad area. So I tried to call her from Facebook on my phone. Again, nothing. So I thought, again, it's got to be her phone. So I called my husband. And he's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. So I watched like 3 YouTube videos, and I found out if you go into the phone app, you have to make sure it's allowing your microphone, and then it tells you to force stop the app. Okay, now the phone is working fine. So I want to know what the hell OJ did, because there is no way that I went into that app and turned off my microphone. He did it the other day when he ordered extra hamburgers for us on Instacart. So he's basically like me. He cannot touch buttons. Angie Baby said, I'm new. LOL, love you. Well, my goodness. I thought your name sounded familiar. I must be wrong. You want to hear the kicker? I thought the phone was just, shit the bed. Okay? So I got another phone. Yeah. So now I have to take that phone back. Yeah, he's causing me a lot of headaches today. But not you guys, but I did miss you on Friday. Had a very busy weekend. Oh my gosh. My goodness. My granddaughter is here. She is here, and she is a force to be reckoned with. I remember back in the day when I would ask her father to take out the trash, and he would look at me like I had a horn growing out of my head or something. He would just be like, can you tell Craig to do it? Mom, I'm in the middle of a game. Mom, I was getting ready to go to T-Dog's. Mom, I was going to go over to Drew's. You know that. And I'm like, I'm not taking the trash out there. Okay. But now when she says jump, same person, my son, he scrambles around and goes like, how high, how high, how high? It is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. My daughter-in-law is doing fine. She's in a lot of pain because she had to have surgery. She went into labor on Friday. Saturday morning, they did an emergency C-section. And they're supposed to be going home today. Now, let me tell you something about problems with healthcare in America. Okay, let's just keep this between us. I'm not being political. I'm telling you something that personally happened to me. I called the nurse's desk yesterday, and I talked to a lovely woman named Ginger. And I said, I don't think it's safe for my daughter-in-law to go home tomorrow. And she goes, well, she's been checked out by the doctor, and she seems to have, an understanding of how to care for herself and, if anything happens to the incision and, how much you can lift and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I get all that. I said, it just doesn't seem safe to me. It just doesn't seem safe to me. And I said, listen, she goes, well, hold on. She goes, are you a doctor? I think she got me confused with my daughter-in-law's mother. And I'm like, no, I have watched every episode of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, though. And I'm telling you, this is not safe. So I was getting nowhere in a hurry with the lovely Ginger. Okay. Back to problems with healthcare in America. And I said, just forget this conversation. I said, certainly do not tell my son or daughter-in-law that I called. She did. The bitch did. She did. She betrayed my trust. She betrayed my trust. And that's okay. Once they get home, I'm going to call back and I'm going to explain to her that this is undue stress to put on me, my daughter-in-law, my son, and my grandbaby. This is crazy. I'm telling you, I got told on. Well, let's take a second and tell everyone good morning. We're back together. And a lot of stuff happened this weekend with Nancy Guthrie. Lala. So the question though, why isn't it safe? Because I said, Lala. Because I said, that's all we need to know. Did y'all keep up with this over the weekend? I was getting a lot of texts and Facebook messages from Jules. That's how I was keeping up until I couldn't sleep Saturday night. And I saw like everywhere on YouTube, everybody was talking about the warrant where they took Nancy Guthrie's car. Woo! We have a former FBI agent retired saying, I don't even think there's a kidnapping. Double whoop. You had JLR and News Daddy outside of Annie Guthrie's house, and you could clearly see they were inside photographing. Well, let's get it down to a gnat's ass. They are investigating 2 locations, as in homes, okay? Annie's and Nancy's. They have seized 4 evidence, 2 cars, Annie's and Nancy's. They have got surveillance from the Circle K and another gas station, which became available to them, according to the New York Post, sometime on Saturday. And hours later, they seized Nancy's car. Okay, so we know the timeline tells us that the garage door only opened and shut once that night. We know that these people lie to us. It sounds to me like somebody walked over to her house, and they were using Nancy's car. Let's look at the timeline. Ooh, that's hard for Brooks to see. Hold on. That is hard for me to see. I got it pulled up this way. Okay, January 31st, 5:32 p.m., Nancy Guthrie took an Uber to her daughter's home for dinner. Lots of questions about that. Like, why didn't her daughter just pick her up? I mean, we're basically talking not even a 10-minute drive. I'm going to go ahead and say that has a lot to do with her independence, that she's just like, no, don't worry about me. I'm just going to get an Uber type of thing. A lot of people are asking, how does she get to church? It was reported she took Ubers. What did they say in the month of January? I mean, she had a shitload of Uber drives. 6 p.m. at Annie's house. She's dining in the home of her daughter, Annie. 9:48, her son-in-law, Tommaso, drops Nancy off at home and the garage door opens. 2 minutes later, the garage door shuts. Okay, they give zero activity between 9:50 p.m. and 1:47 a.m. Now, I did not know you could detect when a garage door opens and shuts. I had no idea. 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. Makes me wonder if maybe the doorbell camera is what told them, well, that the garage door opened and shut. I don't know. 2:12 a.m., software detects person on camera, no video available, no subscription. 2:28, pacemaker app shows disconnect from phone. 11 a.m., a friend called Guthrie family telling them she had not shown up for church. Okay, so that's at 11 a.m. So basically everything we knew about the timeline last week is all BS because it said she called early morning. 11 a.m. is not early morning. It is not, okay? It is not. However, family, who is Annie, checks on her mom at 11:56. I don't know why it took her an hour to get, 4 minutes away. I don't know, but it did. But she called the sheriff's department like right after. I mean, I'm talking not even 10 minutes. And then the police show up after 2 o'clock. This is crazy. Now, last week I kept saying, well, if she got there at 11, like they had been saying, why did she wait an hour to call? Like, where could an 84-year-old go? Well, now we know the true timeline. Okay. Now let's get to this. There was a new video that came out, and this is where Savannah Guthrie is saying, we will pay. Okay? They want $6 million by, I think, it's 5 o'clock today, Arizona time. They want $6 million. And she's saying, we will pay. A lot of questions are circling the net, the web, the algorithm. Would you really pay $6 million if she's dead and you have no proof of life? Or is this an FBI ploy saying we will pay? We won't know until tonight. And they said, we want to celebrate with her. And this is valuable to us. So a lot of people are confused. Would you really pay for a body? Or is there still belief that she's alive? Let's look at it. You tell me what you hear.
National news where we continue to follow the search for Nancy Guthrie. Tomorrow is the second deadline in a ransom note that demands money in exchange for the mother of Today's Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. Her mother, Nancy, has now been reported missing for over a week now. Savannah and her siblings are addressing their mom's potential kidnapper in a new video. Take a listen.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her.
Okay, if they had said, and I've listened to this several times, if they had said, so we can celebrate her, I would assume they're talking about a celebration of her life, meaning her body is physically here, but she's not alive. But she said, we want to celebrate with her. Okay?
This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us.
This is very valuable to us.
And we will pay.
And we will pay. Now listen to it straight through. You tell me what you think. Have they been told by the FBI that Nancy Guthrie has passed away? Because Savannah is saying, we will pay. Now, I don't know what the hell is going on here. I'm not doubting that Savannah can come up with $6 million. Not worried about that at all. Tell you what, NBC will write the check, and they should, considering their ratings have quadrupled in the last 7 days. I'm telling you, they have till 5 o'clock Arizona time to pay. Now listen to it again and tell me, is this coming from a daughter that believes her mother is dead or alive? And I would love to know the conversations that Savannah and her brother are having with Annie, as in, why did they seize your car? Why did an FBI agent that's known Banfield for 10 years say that Beard did it? Would love to be a fly on the wall.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Now, NBC News says at least 3 news outlets have received a possible ransom note, but it's not clear if Guthrie is referencing those notes or another form of communication. There are still no suspects in the search for Nancy Guthrie.
Whoa, Betty. Whoa, Betty. You just spoke a mouthful. If Savannah doesn't pay, it would destroy her career. They would dog her so bad. Sad fact of the matter is, it's already happening. Because anytime the Today Show comes up in your news feed, if you dare to venture into the comments, I have to be in the right mood to open up comments, because there's a lot of goofy people out there in this world. There's a lot of dumbasses. If you look at the comments, they're just like, why did Savannah not pay by Thursday? Savannah is the one that's causing this holdup. She should have paid by Thursday, and now she's putting it off till Monday. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. All right, this morning, they're talking about it again. We have people saying that she actually was not kidnapped. Now, these aren't people affiliated with the case, but a retired NYPD spoke out and made a lot of sense.
Madeline Rivera with the latest on the Guthrie case. Maddie?
Good morning, Carly and Todd. KGUN 9, a local TV news outlet which received one of the original ransom notes, says the demand is $6 million and threatened Nancy Guthrie's life if it's not paid today by 5 o'clock.
First, we're hearing of this because we know that the email went to KOLD on Friday. And now they're saying that the email said they will kill her without the $6 million. Okay? Kill without $6 million.
The family is begging whoever took her to bring her home.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
So the FBI tells the Associated Press when Savannah says in that video, quote, "We have received your message," she is referencing another alleged ransom note sent via email to local TV news station KOLD on Friday. KOLD says that email, which they have not released to the public, did not contain proof of life of Nancy. Guthrie's family is allegedly being told to pay the ransom in Bitcoin.
Everything you do with Bitcoin is really public information. So that you can't hide it. There's no central authority that can withdraw that or take it back. So once it's gone, it's gone. And when it gets in the off-ramp portion, then it's what they do there that investigators are able to see, because that means they're going to have to convert that into some currency one day somewhere else. And likely they'll do it in several different places.
It's been more than 1 week since Nancy was reported missing. Fox saw a lot of activity over the weekend. Sheriff's Deputy.
Yeah, over the weekend, they were in a septic drain. And I'm like, now, hold on. I can tell you right now, if you're doing that, maybe they're just double checking. Maybe they're just double checking. I don't know. Before we go further, I want to give a very special shout out, and I want everyone to sing happy birthday to our wonderful, wonderful friend, Jazzy Jewel, who celebrated another trip around the sun on Saturday, February 7th. She shares a birthday with my granddaughter. And I just realized, look at my calendar, so does my neighbor Linda. Well, bam. We love you, Jazzy Jewel.
Deputies returned to Nancy's house for unclear reasons. The Fox flight team's video captured images of someone in the back of the home searching with flashlights in the desert terrain. Investigators were also inside Savannah's sister Annie's home for 2.5 hours, but they still have no suspects or persons of interest at this time. Carly Anton.
Madeline Rivera, thank you. With that, let us bring in former NYPD officer and former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, Tom Smith. Tom, what are you going to be watching for between now and today's 5 p.m. deadline?
Any communication, any further communication that is out there, because that's what this is. It's a back and forth. A negotiation has to be done in order for this to come to a conclusion. And right now we keep seeing just one-sided communication. There's no back and forth, which alleviates why kidnappings happen, and what goes on in kidnappings. There's got to be a back and forth with whoever has her. And right now we just keep seeing one side of it. And the family's reaction to it in that second video was a little despairing. It was a little tough to watch.
It was tough to watch. But as he said, when it's a true kidnapping, and I've only seen this in the movie Ransom with Mel Gibson, when he said, I plan to pay you nothing. And he was on the news with the money. I plan to pay you nothing. But there is a back and forth and a back and forth. They've had 2 emails that they can authenticate. The other ones were hoaxes, and they've arrested the people. Question is, if they could find those people so quick, why can't they find the person that's sending the emails to TMZ KOLD in page 6 of the New York Times? Above my pay grade is all I'm going to say.
A lot different than the first one. So you don't know what happened in that time frame and what information they received.
Can we say now with certainty that these ransom notes are authentic, or could they still be fraudulent?
Oh, they could definitely still be fraudulent. I'm not sold on them 100% at all because of what I said. When you have a kidnapping, kidnappings are quick. Get them, negotiate, give me the money, get your person back. That's how kidnappings happen, because even the perpetrators don't want to hold on to the victims too long, because that enables police to track them down quicker. So the length of time is concerning in how much deadline after deadline after deadline is going on. So it's sort of a desperation as well.
So this 5 p.m. deadline may be nothing at all or something really huge. We'll have to wait and see.
Former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker questioned whether this was even a kidnapping in the first place. Tom, if not, what is this?
Exactly. And I said that from day one. What's the end game in this? What's the advantage of taking an 84-year-old woman out of a home? Yes, the connection with Savannah, I get that, the public figure. But what's the end game and why do it? I actually think, going on Chris's thought, that the kidnapping was a secondary thought. I think something happened in those 40 minutes in that house that prompted them to go to the extra step and take her from that house.
He knows something we don't know. What does he mean, 40 minutes in that house. 1:47 a.m. doorbell camera disconnects. Oh, now I understand. 2:28 a.m. is when the pacemaker app shows disconnect. Oh, 40 minutes. He's saying okay. Just Men in Black, that one. Okay, just erase that. That's just me thinking out loud. Real Zarp, hey, what's up? Said there won't be any more communication. The family said that they're going to pay. The kidnapper is waiting for payment. If they can be trusted, then they'll probably just drop her off somewhere after payment. What's going to be interesting is when this money is sent and how quick it takes them to pick up the person. And how long is it going to take to get Savannah Guthrie's money back?
If this crypto transfer does happen later today, could that open up a new channel in tracking these people down?
Oh, any transaction, any interaction with them is going to help tracking them down, because someone has to appear somewhere to receive that money, either computerized or a physical pickup of wherever a drop.
Exactly, Angel P. Yeah, they're not going to say we checked her into the hospital. They're just going to dump her off somewhere. They're just going to dump her off somewhere. Sec to No One said, I hope Mrs. Guthrie doesn't know who it is. I don't think she does. Whoever wanted her kidnapped, I'm going to go ahead and say hired someone. It's like Ange and I were talking about it over the weekend, and it's almost like has anyone ever seen the movie Fargo? That, hey, Jerry Lundegaard needs money. Jerry Lundegaard needs money. His father-in-law is very well off, so he hires these two buffoons and gives them a tan Sierra and says, go get her, and then we're going to get the money. Okay. No way would Beard do this himself if he's truly behind it.
Might be. So anything that has to do with someone receiving anything is a good part for law enforcement.
Do you believe collecting a ransom is even the first goal of these kidnappers at this point?
No, it's odd. You know, this keeps going back and forth of we keep asking why. And the further this goes on and the more deadlines pop up, the more questions arise. So I don't know if this ends. It's not going to end if this transaction takes place.
Now, I read that as well, Fundeski, that for some reason the son-in-law, and I don't know if I read it in New York Times, New York Post, Dallas Morning News, can't remember which one it was. They said he got a power of attorney from Nancy back in June. Now, why would he do that? He's a son-in-law. She has a son. She has two daughters. Her daughter, Savannah, is an attorney. Yes, she's the host of the Today Show, but she's also an attorney. Why would he think that he should have power of attorney? Wouldn't it make more sense to have an actual attorney have power of attorney? And heard it was Annie. Woo! Woo! So it almost makes me wonder, because I guarantee it doesn't take Nancy that long to eat. The fact that she got there at 6 o'clock and wasn't dropped off till 9:48, the conversation honestly could have been about you can't have power of attorney. I wouldn't be surprised. That is sketchy. Okay? That is sketchy.
Pop up, the more questions arise. So I don't know if this ends. It's not going to end if this transaction takes place, because now you have to track them down. Now you still got to get the bad guys.
Investigators were also seen using a topographical map near a staging area near Nancy Guthrie's home, and also allegedly talking to some gas station workers about surveillance video. So there is a whole other investigation that's taking place outside of this ransom note that could be key to solving this.
Oh, yeah. When you have a case like this and it's so complex, you have certain teams who are tasked to do things. So you have a negotiation team. You have a surveillance team. You have people who are tracking down license plates, that are all part of this one big team. So everyone has a task to do, and they're not going to stop no matter what's going on. No matter what group is working on one particular thing, the other groups are going to continue to investigate leads that are coming in, calls that are coming into the tip line. So nothing's ever going to stop.
We've heard a number of cyber experts say these emails are encrypted in a way that makes it very, very difficult and time consuming. But that said, wouldn't you expect the FBI, with all of its, what I'm going to call, what I assume are much better resources and much better tools, to crack the code on this? Am I being naive, Tom?
No, and that's why the FBI is involved, because they are good at it. I worked with them for 17 years on the terrorism task force. They are who you want in this position. All right, to enable to do this. But again, we still don't know everything they know. We don't know everything that they're doing, the steps they're taking, or any positive leads that they have. That's still very sensitive, and I don't blame them for not putting everything out because of what is going on in the nature of this.
And finally, do you think authorities will catch the people who've done this, or is there a real possibility that they could get away with it?
That's the magic question, Carly. You hope that it ends with getting Nancy back and getting the bad guys. That's the best case scenario.
So we all think about what we would do in this situation if this were our mom, and it's a terrifying thought, and our heart goes out to Savannah and her whole family.
Tom Smith, thank you so
Thanks,
much
Tom.
for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's bizarre. Bama Cat said that he heard that Annie and Beard asked the mom for $10 million in the past few weeks. Whoa! Where did you hear that? Woo! Shelley said, I would more than question if my husband wanted anything at all from my parents, wouldn't let that even be suggested. No. And just because Annie is right there doesn't mean she has the right to have the power of attorney, even over her health. Okay? My husband had it for his father, and his father is in New York. He's passed on, and Greg is in Oklahoma. You don't have to live across the street to have it. We are in the 2020s, if you know what I mean. Nope, no press conferences today. Astro from space said so they can't get her inheritance money. Wine is fine, liquor's quicker. If they need the money that bad, what's going to come first? 6 million in Bitcoin. There you go. My goodness. All right. Okay. Banfield has been through the ringer with people saying she's being reckless, saying she's lost her integrity, that she flat out made this up. And here comes Megyn Kelly to the rescue. And I will say that it changed public perception over the weekend. Stacy wants to know, what is your granddaughter's name? Oh, Camden. Yep. She is so pretty. She really is. And she's smarter than my son. She really is. Okay, Mama B said, I believe Banfield. Okay, here we go. Remember, I'm not here to talk about Banfield's political affiliations. I'm not here to talk about Megyn Kelly's. This is about the case of Nancy Guthrie.
I just want to show you the messaging that both Savannah and now Cameron have offered in their back-to-back Instagram messages here. And this, again, was Cameron alone last night.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
Okay, so that's what we heard from Cameron himself last night. Now listen.
You know, matter of fact, since we're talking about power of attorney, when she starts talking, my granddaughter in a couple weeks, because like I said, she's very far advanced, I'm going to make her my power of attorney. Yeah, I am. Greg's too busy, and she's smarter than my son.
Into the comparison.
As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk.
Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us.
We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
This poor family is desperate for someone, if they actually have their mother, to be in touch.
It's abject
actually
cruelty.
make it possible for them to interact. It's torture.
It is abject
this
cruelty.
is ongoing
If
fucking
this
torture.
is yet another scammer or another alleged scammer. It is abject torture. It is why the penalties in the code are so steep for this, not just because of the interstate commerce, but because of the.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that. Again, if you're brave enough to look at the comments, we're seeing a lot going, why can't they do this for Summer Wells and Sebastian Rogers? Because this is a kidnapping for ransom. It is an anomaly of a crime. It is an 84-year-old woman that's being held against her will for money. The code is as strict as murder one. So when people say, well, why can't they do that for everyone? Well, not everyone that is a victim. It sounds cruel. It sounds grim. It sounds unfair. But not everyone that has been victimized has been kidnapped for ransom. Okay? That is something, well, none of it can be allowed. Well, according to some people, a lot of things should be allowed, but you know what I mean. None of it should be allowed. But if we let elderly ladies get taken out of their house and held at a La Quinta Inn or wherever she is and say, I'll dump her off when I get $6 million. No. You can't let that go on. The minute you give some people, an inch, they'll take a mile. These are totally different circumstances. And any threat made over state lines, you got a big problem on your hands.
Or another alleged scammer. It is abject torture. It is why the penalties in the code are so steep for this, not just because of the interstate commerce, but because of the the interjection of the law enforcement's efforts, but also just the sheer torture that you put these people through.
Yeah, it's so awful. And you and I both have our doubts about whether it's even real. So it does, if I had to put money down, I'd say this is somebody intentionally torturing the family, trying to scam them, trying to get money from them in their most vulnerable, painful moment. And by the way, if that's true, then it means the real kidnapper, murderer, whoever hurt Nancy, however they did it, perpetrator is out there watching the whole thing, letting them suffer too. Like, it's not enough that they did something to the mother. They're letting the torture go on day after day after day. When I saw those three people, Ashley, the other night on camera, all I could think was, these are torture victims. That's what's happened to them.
Yeah. And so often, and we don't often see this, right? Because this is a very high profile case, but in so many of the true crime cases that we covered, this is the reality. This is what people go through when their loved ones go missing. Do they get a high profile ransom note sent to TMZ? No, but oftentimes they are left just as terrified and just as traumatized, especially if it's their children. And you don't see as much of it on the media.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get to your reporting, because it was very clearly the gorilla in the room yesterday at that presser, where it came up 3 different times, 4 total, with the sheriff saying, we have no suspects, no persons of interest, and then some broadsides, quite clearly, I thought, at you. I think you agreed. I watched your show this morning without naming you. And some of the media are piling on, oh, if these influencers looking for clicks are reporting, irresponsible.
Oh, yeah, they're going after Banfield. Great guns. They are. They are. And so back to what we were talking about. Why is this everywhere? Why is this everywhere? I can tell you right now, if it was Sherry, and somebody was holding her for ransom, everybody would know Sherry's name. It's not a crime we hear very often. We just don't. We just don't. Remember Patty Hearst? I mean, there's been a few others. Remember the kid, oh my gosh, from the Getty family. It's just not something we hear that often. And of course, they only take people that they know somebody in their circle has funds to pay them off. Okay? Even if it was Johnny that had a birthday yesterday and they grabbed his ass and they were holding him for ransom, everybody would know Johnny's name. Yes, John Paul Getty. Thank you, Fundeski.
Persons of interest, and then some broadsides, quite clearly, I thought, at you. I think you agreed. I watched your show this morning without naming you. And some of the media are piling on, oh, if these influencers looking for clicks are reporting, irresponsibly. That's bullshit. You are not an influencer looking for clicks. I've known you 20 years. That's not who you are. So people are dismissing this at their own peril. It is everyone there, even.
This is what real friends do. Now, also, please remember that Savannah Guthrie and Ashley worked together at NBC. No way Ashley would have done this thinking that she was wrecking the case. Do not think for a second she has not talked to one of her best friends. They've gone to each other's baby showers. They have celebrated weddings. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of layers to this cake.
The sheriff said, no one's been cleared. Everyone's a suspect. So it is not inappropriate to start where all law enforcement starts, which is with the family, and work out. That's what you're doing. You would be doing that even if your law enforcement source had not said that the brother-in-law may be the prime suspect. It's not inappropriate to ask questions about the family. It's actually imperative. So here's what the sheriff said. Let's listen to SOT 19B.
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim.
Does anyone find it odd, suspicious, coinky-dink, that over the last few days, Beard took down all his socials, wiped clean? You cannot find him. You cannot find him. What do you think about that? Does anyone find it a little weird that he wiped his socials like that? I find it real weird because what if the kidnapper wants to get a hold of you, Beard? And now the only way they had to get a hold of you, because you look like the coolest person in the bunch, they have no way to message you. I have a big problem when family members of victims start changing social media accounts, change phone numbers, and things like that. Case in point, Candace Wells. Her and Dawn are probably on phone number 5. Not saying that Summer would have the recollection of their phone number. It is still very irresponsible.
It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect, and you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you can do some damage to that individual too. This is social media is kind of an ugly world sometimes.
Okay, so Ashley, are you standing by your exclusive reporting broken 2 days ago now that
3
a
things.
top law
I think we're at
enforcement
3.
official
Yeah, real early on.
3, okay, who's an impeccable source, told you that Tommaso Cioni, who is married to Annie Guthrie, Savannah's sister, may be the prime suspect in this case,
At this
and
time.
that
At this
the
time.
this time, and that the car that was towed and impounded was Annie Guthrie's car.
Yeah, the word.
So there's no way Ashley knew that before the mainstream media was told a car had been towed. We only heard a car. She comes out and says it's Annie's car. Now, for the dum-dums that keep saying, Brooks, they do that in every case. Oh my God, Brooks, they do that in every case. I mean, every case. It's just standard procedure, Brooks. It is just standard procedure. We talk about a different case almost on the daily here, okay? And no, it's not standard procedure. It is not standard procedure to take a car. I'm using the sheriff's words and the FBI words into evidence. Into evidence. OG Nanny said my friend has been investing in Bitcoin and claims he's a millionaire, but he's still going to work every day. Well. So no, it is not something that is done in every case. No. Was any cars seized in the case of Michael Vaughn? Nope. Summer Wells? Nope. Sebastian Rogers? Nope. Harlan Montgomery? Not until later, but there was a correlation there because she was killed in said car. They have to have a reason to have the car.
The word that was used was towed and taken into evidence. I noticed that was actually confirmed yesterday. Car was towed and is being processed as per warrant. That was said by the
Sort
sheriff.
of. He didn't say it was Annie's, and the way he said it actually raised me a bunch of questions. The car, and he made it sound like it was at the crime scene, which is odd. I don't know that Annie Guthrie's car was at the mother's house at any point. You know, actually, here we have it, SOT 16. Let's listen to how he described it.
The car, the car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle.
Part of the search warrant
Well,
scene.
and at the home.
That would speak to it being at Nancy's.
It just said at the home, and they've been at 2 homes. Law enforcement has been at 2 homes. And my source said definitively, car was towed and is in evidence. That's 3 days ago.
And that it was Annie's.
That's it.
Now we fast forward to February 9th, 9:50 a.m. Central Time. Now We have 2 cars taken into evidence, reported on the news, and 2 homes that are being heavily investigated. Okay. We also have a very strange business card that is on the window in the walkway going up to Nancy Guthrie's door. And it is a business card for Adult Protective Services. It's not in her wallet. It's not on her refrigerator. It is right on the window. Think about that. It is right on the window. Okay. We have 2 convenience stores that have given over their CCTV, and I don't know exactly why. Not why. I know why. I don't know exactly when they got it, but it was reported that it was sometime on Saturday the CCTV came in, and then they went and they seized for evidence Nancy's car. Woo! Now remember the timeline we were given about the garage door opening and shutting. We received that last week. They only got that car because that car was used and put back in the garage.
And said it, Annie's car, did not say the car, said Annie's car. The sister's car was towed and is in evidence. And he only would say the car.
He did not deny it.
He didn't deny it. He didn't deny a lot of stuff yesterday. He took pot shots, and I get it.
Okay, but let's get to the big headline about Tomas and what your source, because I heard your show. Have you been checking in with your source on that piece of your reporting?
Multiple times per day. And yesterday I was told by the same source, still on target. And then he said, let me put it to you this way. If they're taking shots at you, you're standing on the target.
Woo! So she still checks in with her source that she's known for 10 years, that I'm going to assume is in the FBI because, well, she's Ashley Banfield. And I don't think there'd be a reason to have a trusted source within the Tucson, Arizona Sheriff's Department. And so all of this bad juju is going Banfield's way. And the agent, I'm just going to say agent, tells her, if they're taking shots at you, it's because you are on the target. Woo, that's a good statement.
Okay, but let's get to the big headline about Tomas and what your source, because I heard your show. Have you been checking in with your source on that piece of your reporting?
Multiple times per day. And yesterday I was told by the same source, still on target. And then he said, let me put it to you this way. If they're taking shots at you, you're standing on the target. That was his.
Sarah said, as long as the spice is not coffee grabber for sure. She was on the Joe Pag show a few days ago. So I went ahead and I sent him an email to tell him about her expertise in the FBI. I have not gotten a response back. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I just feel it's better to get that out in the universe and let people know. You know what I mean?
So no wiggling, no backing down.
No backing down. No change.
And let me ask you this. Is he, even though I'm just saying he, I don't know whether it's he or she, but is this person, you say a top law enforcement source, but is this person in a position to know about what's actually happening in this case?
Yes. And then after the break, I was informed on day 2 that the Sheriff's Department tightened up like a noose, angry about leaks. And so if my information wasn't accurate, why would anybody be worried about leaks?
Who would
Who
care?
would care?
Like Ashley Banfield.
Right. Must be just some influencer.
is reporting.
So that also strengthened this information. I didn't need the strengthening. Thank you, given the level of this source of mine. And by the way, I got asked that yesterday, Megan, by somebody in the mainstream media. Well, you're not working for a main network now. So have your standards dropped? I thought, right.
Oh,
Well,
Lord, this
I've
is
been at it
infuriating.
38 years. I don't think I'd throw my entire 4 decades away for one story. You know, I get it. People have to have their own headlines too. But I did find that pretty offensive. No.
Well,
My
not only that,
standards
but
haven't
I've
dropped.
noticed something else. Some people who consider themselves close to Savannah, I've observed, have been particularly dismissive of this report. And
Thank you. No. Who reported on the card? Me. You know how I know? Because Mama B looked at the picture of the blood splatter outside of the door and she blew it up. And there in the window, you can do the exact same thing. You are going to see a business card for Adult Protective Services. Hell, I assumed it was just some kind of security sticker or something. I was more concerned about the damn Amazon package. So yeah, look at the picture.
I don't know if that's out of loyalty to her, like she wouldn't like this, or whether they've actually been in touch with her and she doesn't like this. Either way, with all due respect to Savannah and the family, it's fair reporting.
Yeah.
And you certainly could not go by what Savannah wants you to report in covering this case. Of course, she'd be inclined to defend her family, even her in-law family members. And that there's no question you wouldn't depend upon one of the victims of the crime to guide your investigation as a reporter of the crime. So I've just noticed there's a strain of people who I know consider themselves friends of hers who have been particularly disdainful and are trying to move the coverage elsewhere. And that just can't happen.
Well,
Like,
that would be a
that's
hit
not how this
to
game works.
integrity of what I do. Would I change the way I work because of who I'm covering? No, unfortunately. And it's been very difficult. We've had to cover, I remember one of the first stories that I covered in 1988 was someone I knew was nicked by the feds for cross-border drug dealing. And I had to put it on the news.
Oh.
That was one of my very first stories as a cub reporter. And it was
Wow.
like, well, baptism by fire, here we go. And so out it went exactly as the police had reported it to us at CJBN in Kenora, Ontario. But yeah,
Wow.
that would be a questionable move in journalistic scruples if I decided to couch the reporting because of who I'm reporting on. And it's hard. It is hard. But I will say this. Law enforcement doesn't tell us everything. That's the way it works. In fact, I think that's what the sheriff actually even said yesterday. I wrote his quote down. Yeah. He was asked.
Now, I sent this to Banfield, and I'm sure she didn't leave me on read because knows how important I am. If you want to screenshot that and blow it up, you are more than welcome to. I am not doxing this person. This was captured from News Nation. However, you can clearly see it is posted in her door. It's hard to see. It's kind of blurry. Adult, hang on. I got to go down a little bit. Hang on. Adult Investigation, Adult Protective Services. Okay. Tucson, Arizona. There is a website and there is a phone number. For whatever reason, Nancy felt it important. Can you guys hear me now? I was messing with that picture. I think this is very significant, my friends, that Nancy felt it necessary to keep a business card from Deborah M. of Adult Protective Services in her window when you approach her door. I'm still cutting out. Can everyone hear me okay? Or is it just something on Curious Country Girl's end? Okay, Meerkamp said she can hear me. Curious Country Girl might need to get out and come back in. Because OJ hasn't been in here, so I should be fine. So look at that business card. It's on the screen, and you tell me, do you think this is significant? Do you think this is significant? Again, she doesn't have it on her refrigerator under a magnet. She didn't keep it in her purse. She has it in the window to when you approach her door. Something has happened before to where she felt like people needed to see that card. Don't think they haven't talked to old Deborah M. many, many times.
Are you purposely withholding information because of the active investigation that might be leading you in a particular direction? And his answer was this: this is no different than any criminal investigation that we conduct here. Went on to say, law enforcement's conducted investigations since 1865 in Pima County. We are always mindful of what is in front of us and what we should release and can release. There's legal guidelines that guide us, but there's also strategy
And there's
too.
strategy.
I'll leave that for you to determine. So that is the way it works. We're not idiots. They don't have to tell us everything. But there is also a balance between the public interest and transparency. And we are always working that balance. In Koberger, they flat out lied to us. There's no concern for the public. This is a targeted attack.
Quit saying Koberger's name. Koberger should be hamburger fed to rabid dogs, okay? Quit even bringing him up. They compare some people, like Nancy Grace will never get over Casey Anthony. She'll never get over it. Banfield's never going to get over Koberger.
Attack on these 4 kids. That was bullshit. There was an absolute concern to the public. For 6 weeks, Brian Koberger, a maniacal quadruple murderer, was out there and maybe eyeballing other friends of his at Washington State University. There's a lawsuit. That was going on. And we know that on the 19th of December in 2022.
Hold on. What do you mean, Andy 4477? That person left the card. What person? What person left the card? I'm dying to know. Duh, a detective left the card. Why would a detective leave the card? Are you saying Deborah M. left the card? I'm saying for whatever reason, it's Nancy's home, and Nancy kept it in the window. I've never seen such a thing. Are you saying a detective with the FBI? Hold on. Christina said on the first day the cops were there, a lady left the card in the window. It was a cop. A cop left an adult protective services card? Wow. Now I'm extra intrigued. Holy crap. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Okay. I understand now. Whoa. Is she the one that goes to church with Nancy and she left her card? Okay. Well, I didn't know. You don't need to say duh to me because it's the first time I'm hearing about it. My goodness.
They identified his DNA as he is the holder of the DNA from the knife sheath. December 19th. What did they do on December 20th, the next day? They recorded a video. The police chief, James Fry, the Moscow PD, recorded a video of himself and posted it on the Moscow police website saying, "We have no suspect." Let me read it for you. These are his words. "No suspects identified, and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public. We encourage referencing official releases for accurate and updated progress." They were already chasing him across the country at this point. This guy has full access to every state between Washington State and Pennsylvania with his dad as he's crossing the country. But that's what they chose to tell us. So what is the public's interest in knowing what reporters do and what the police do? We all have a job to do, and there is a balance. But there are a lot of people in that neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie lives who are very, very afraid, who said there's never been crime here. It's a safe place. We're really worried.
Well, let me tell you something else. CNN had absolutely no problem, none whatsoever, in going with the flimsiest. I'm mentioning them because there was an anchor over there who was ripping on this. The flimsiest reporting and sourcing possible when it came to Russiagate. The same conclusion times 100 for MSNBC. So if anything that would reflect negatively on President Trump, they don't need double sourcing. They don't need on the record sources at all. Same for the New York Times for that matter. So now suddenly it's just because it's Ashley Banfield and she's in the quote influence.
Christina 5413 said it was an officer with short blonde hair. There was a video. She came, left it outside the window, probably if she was in trouble, and came back. This was right at the beginning. Thank you. Thank you. Well, then somebody knew something. Wow. And Dia said, well, who would leave someone's business card in their window to advertise for that person? That person left their card after being called to the house. I was thinking of the flip side of it, that Nancy herself kept the business card up because something had happened. Okay? Something had happened. That was my first assumption. Now I understand. Again, why I love this channel and love you guys, because, well, we just have a little topic that comes up and we discuss it. I will look more into it, though. I promise.
It's a realm that's not an okay, that a top law enforcement official with whom you've had a relationship for years, whom you call impeccable.
Over a decade.
Now suddenly it's suspect for over a decade. So this is, this is fair game. And I'm
little inside baseball.
I resent what's being said about you.
Yeah, I do too. But okay, I get it. I got big girl pants on. But I will also say this, that things have changed many times over in the years that I've been doing this. I've gone from broadcast news, local news, cable news, and then I'm now doing podcasting. But
no one's being rude. We know that the deadline is at 5 p.m. today. We know this is an anomaly of a case where a very vulnerable citizen was taken and is being, from what we can perceive, held against her will, and Savannah Guthrie is supposed to pay out $6 million. So yeah, tensions are heightened.
the way it used to be was that if you don't have three sources, you can't take it to air. That has changed. Now it is the caliber of your source. Now it is really who that source is, the trustworthiness of that source that is oftentimes completely acceptable to all mainstream outlets, right? So I am a little surprised on this one that I'm getting the flack, but especially
truly,
with the sheriff's answers.
Look, Banfield's a big girl, okay? Banfield's a big girl. She's taken flack before, okay? She's okay. She trusts her source. And I don't think that she would jeopardize her long-term friendship with Savannah Guthrie just because she was in a mood to be reckless. And she addressed it again. And this was like at midnight on Friday. Now we can call her Grayfield. She's got on a very pretty gray sweater.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Banfield and this is Drop Dead Serious. And it has been another day, and it has been a big day, culminating in a very big night. I am actually recording this at midnight, just at the end of February the 6th, Friday night, because this day was so jam-packed with developments and activities and I don't know, we just felt we were being yanked back and forth in the missing disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Everything from a new ransom message, not ransom note, just a message.
And Dia 4477. So someone reported Nancy needed adult protective. Usually the victim doesn't call themselves. That is it. They do not call themselves. And it's a huge difference since it was explained to me that the card's on the outside of the window, sticking in the trim, as opposed to the inside of the window. What's up, Keys? Celebrate with her? They want to celebrate with her? She said, could it be there was a proof of life and some sort of info only Nancy would know, like her anniversary with her late husband? Well, I thought about that as well. However, the clip we heard earlier today, and remember, police don't tell the truth. They keep things close to the vest. They say in that second email, there was no proof of life. Seems to me there is a proof of life. Or else Savannah wouldn't be chalking out $6 million today by 5 p.m.
To the president, weighing in, saying, we may be there. I've got so much to update you on, but just within the last hour, and again, I'm recording this at midnight, we've got activity at Annie Guthrie's house, federal agents at Annie Guthrie's house. We have activity also 4 miles down the road at Nancy Guthrie's house. I don't know why all of this is happening in the cover of darkness. Again, it's 2 hours prior to midnight. It's 10 o'clock at night there where this is happening. But the day has been chock full of bizarre activity as well. Agents showing up and shutting down an entire street, moving all the reporters down the street, and then fastening a ladder up on the side of Nancy Guthrie's house, clambering up onto the roof and chiseling away at, what do you know, more cameras. I'm going to tell you everything that happened today, including an incredibly astute analysis from a former hostage negotiator who has something, probably the smartest analysis that I think I've heard throughout this entire awful ordeal about these ransom letters. I think he really puts into perspective what they could be all about. And I'm going to play all that for you in a minute. But I have got to play for you what the President of the United States just said on Air Force One this evening that just kind of gave me whiplash, because I thought, oh my God, he's had a report of some actual movement in this case. Here's the president speaking to reporters. Take a look.
We have some things I think that will maybe come out reasonably soon from DOJ or FBI or whoever that could be suspect. Yeah, could be definitive. A lot's taken place in the last couple of hours. A lot of things have happened with regard to that horrible situation in the last couple of hours.
I think that we will maybe come out reasonably soon. FBI, DOJ could be definitive. A lot has taken place in the last couple of hours. And all of this at a time when there's this frenetic activity out in front of Nancy Guthrie's home, as well as a new ransom. I'm not going to say ransom because they're not calling it a ransom note, but a new communications note sent to, again, a TV station. And the way this is sent makes a lot more sense now, because we all thought they were being emailed, and why were they being emailed to certain people and who? Turns out, no, tip line, webmail, like just through the website. You know, when you set up a customer service comment and they say, put your address here and put your comment here and you know, send in your comments. That is how this latest communication came in. I'll explain all of that in a moment. It's KOL.
Webbs, do you think Trump gave them money to help? I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't pony up the $6 million to give to Savannah. I would not be surprised. And I agree with Andia because it's very random. Hopefully I'm saying your YouTube name right. It may not be the first time. Somebody made a report. Okay. And without getting too personal, I know how this works. And Some people say it could be protocol there that, you know, a woman's missing at 84 and so they make sure to leave their card there. I don't know. I just found it to be, it raised my eyebrows. Let me put it that way.
LD TV in Tucson, but they're not calling it a ransom note. They're saying it's more like a message. And I wouldn't say it's helpful. They're not saying everything about it, trust me. But let me just say this, not helping to further communications. But back to the developments tonight. Agents are back in 2 locations. Nancy Guthrie's home, which is the crime scene.
Andy, are you busy right now? I would love for you to come on panel. I want to pick your brain about this case because I know everyone is following this. I know everyone is following this. And I want to hear your opinions. Grab the link and come up.
4 miles down the road, Annie Guthrie's home, Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Savannah Guthrie's sister. So it's midnight Eastern right now and 10 o'clock-ish in Tucson, and agents showed up at Annie Guthrie's home, 3 of them, according to Brian Enton, who's there watching. He's got eyes on. And they showed up in the cover of darkness and then left. I don't know what to make of that. So much that's happening has been unusual in this case, including some of the comments from law enforcement all throughout this. Lots of backtracking, lots of sort of confusing messaging, not the least of which is who dropped Nancy Guthrie off. The sheriff has said 3 different things.
Pureblood said, did the Clintons orchestrate this to hide their legal demands by the government? Was this done as a cover? Are the Guthries all in on this? That is a very common theory. That is a very common theory. And time will tell. Time will tell. However, we know just from our history, I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, that old Slick Willie is not going to get in any trouble ever, ever, ever. He enjoys it.
Things. And then walked it all back saying, we're just going to go with family. Now we really don't even know who the last person or people was, to see Nancy Guthrie. I found that odd. I found a lot of the wording of the press conference yesterday odd. I found it odd that a lot of the press...
And that was in the Epstein files, Pureblood. You're exactly right. Again, it's going to come out in the wash, but when it comes to people like Bill Clinton, we're not going to know his involvement, okay? We all know that. We all know that. Is it right? Nope. Does it drive me insane? Not anymore. I just do my thing.
Didn't pick up on the fact that the sheriff said the car has been towed per a warrant and it's being processed. I believe I reported on Tuesday, Annie Guthrie's car was towed and is in evidence. And then tonight, lest there be any confusion on what car was towed, another car was towed. Nancy Guthrie's car was towed out of her garage at the crime scene at Nancy Guthrie's home. So the reference to a car already having been towed, Nancy's, no, that happened tonight. That would have been Annie's car. At least that's the way I see it when he says, as for the car being towed, that would have been Annie's car. Being processed as per a warrant, right? To get a warrant, you got to have probable cause. You got to go before a magistrate usually or a judge and get a, get the warrant okayed. Megyn Kelly, who you're going to hear from in a bit.
Fun to Ski said Annie has a new look. Hair is cut and colored in the last interview, in my opinion. Ooh. Did she find an iron? I'm not really paying that much attention to her. I'm really not. I do understand for the camera and for public perception, looking as if you have a strong line of sibling unity. I understand that. I do. I get it. I do. I did hear a rumor, haven't seen the picture for myself, that Beard cut his beard. We know his socials are down.
bit. She and her team reached out to get the warrant, and it was sealed. So don't hold your breath. They're not opening that information up, but I would like to know what the probable cause was to tow that car that the sheriff confirmed yesterday had already happened, that I reported on Tuesday of this week, 4 days ago. So let's see what else. A lot happened today. Again, Nancy's car has been towed from her garage. A Circle K representative has told the media that authorities have come and asked for video to check it against a vehicle that they are looking for. And the Circle K executive said that they complied and gave the video that law enforcement was looking for. Fox had some really, really interesting video today. They videotaped agents on top of Nancy Guthrie's roof. And you could see these agents kind of like working a camera until they got it off its mount, removing it from like the gutter area of the roof line. And News Nation also had.
Anyone find it odd that when they were taking this down on Friday, that they missed it before? Or did they already have the info from it, let's say via the cloud? Love your face, Keys. Keys, do you know I'm a grandma now? Did you catch the first of the show? I'm a grandma now. Or did they take the camera just for extra caution? I don't know. Rogue said, with Savannah Guthrie's husband's job as a scrubber to the Clintons and his other ties, I think this is to say you're not reporting anything Epstein-wise. I have not delved into it. I'm just going over what we know right now. I have not really done a deep dive into any of that, but you are welcome to educate me. More than welcome.
Drone video showing agents clambering up on the roof with a ladder that they had affixed to the backside of Nancy Guthrie's home, where the pool area and the garden is. That's also the same area where Fox.
That girl, Britt, we had the exact same thought. Did you see how white her roof is? Now they have flat roofs in Tucson. Okay, it gets very, very hot there. Technically, it's winter time, so it's not 117. And it's very common that in January, February, that they will reseal and repaint their roofs. Okay. And a neighbor said he was recently having his roof repainted and resealed. Andy, I thought you were grabbing the link. Don't let me down, Bruce. Don't let me down, Bruce. She said the Nest company is trying to see if anything can be saved. I did hear that. Rogue said, yes, it's all over X. He's in the files. You're exactly right. I did hear that. That's the reason so many are putting that connection together. I think it's smart to have those conversations. We're talking about a very vulnerable lady who, as we know, as of 10:24 a.m. Central, February 9th, is being held against her will.
A ladder that they had affixed to the backside of Nancy Guthrie's home, where the pool area and the garden is. That's also the same area where Fox zeroed in on smashed floodlights that are sort of over the back door area, kind of inside the garage into the back door area, the back part of the backyard. And so those floodlights look very smashed to me. The brick even looks damaged if you zero in, but those floodlights are like hanging off of their wires. So whomever may have been responsible for this may have been the parties that did that to the floodlights. But I was fascinated to see that way up high on the roof line, these agents who were up on the roof were able to actually physically, get a camera off its mount and put it down beside them on the roof. And what's important to note here is the sheriff had said,
You know what's weird is when, good morning, Rogue, when you go into Western Arizona, and let's say you're heading up into, let's just say going towards Kingman, Arizona, into, you're going towards Vegas, I'll put it that way. White roofs are very common because they reflect the heat, but people will actually take old tires and they will put them on their roofs to absorb the heat in the summer. Because I'm going, these are nice houses. Why are they doing such junky damn shit? And then I got on my phone, hit the old Google, and went beep, 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 doot, doot, doot. And I was like, really? So the tires absorb the heat. So it doesn't cause damage to the roof.
Nancy Guthrie did not have a subscription service for her Nest system. And I say Nest because my source called these Nest cameras and said they'd been smashed. And the problem with not having a subscription is you don't have the archival video, but you have the alerts. You know when the alerts happen. And if you're lucky enough to catch them live, you can see what's going on live. But the minute it's over, you don't get the history. You can't go back and look at the video. So the company that they've been working with to try to get this forensic historical data can only sort of tell them, well, there was an alert at this time and there was an alert at that time. And it's basically motion detected at your back door or motion detected. But the sheriff said there was no way to tell where the motion was detected, which camera. It just said the system detected motion. So the cameras that this Fox News video was able to see today being dismounted.
Exactly, Andy. Woo! I love summertime. I do. But not year round. Not year round. But it seems like several people in the neighborhood, and this could be another clue, just saying could be. I don't have a source at the FBI like Grayfield. I do not. That so many people all in the last few weeks have had, get out of there. Get out of there, OJ. Here, okay, fine. Get your party mix. Damn it, OJ, get down. There you go. Now, screw that. You know I'm doing a professional show, trying to solve a crime, OJ. I don't need you doing that right now. That could be a clue that so many people in the last, in January, had their roofs painted and sealed. Never know. You never know. Yeah, eat your party mix. That's your Friskies.
From the gutter area, the top of the roof line. I don't know whether one of those might have been the cameras that alerted, But the sheriff said the cameras, plural, and this is important because my source said that they were smashed. And the wording that the sheriff used were smashed. I don't know where you got that. I'm not confirming that. We don't have them. They're gone. That was fascinating to me. Clearly, at least one of them.
Andy, he's a black cat. He's a, as it's been said around the internet, he's a fake Bombay. Very long story. When I got him, I thought he was a girl because I didn't see any balls. And well, I'm not a vet. I have zero problems saying when I'm wrong. Okay, you'll get to know that about me. And I took him to the veterinarian, and I love the name Olivia, and I like the name Jane. And so got shortened to OJ because I was going to call her. Anyway, then found out OJ is a boy, and so it's OJ. People think I really named my black cat after O.J. Simpson. Andy said, quick question, if you don't mind. What do you think about the change in timeline provided by the sheriff? Well, I think he ate the words that he threw out against Ashley Banfield when he said she's being reckless. Because his timeline is the one we talked about all last week. And now that the true timeline is out, it makes less and more sense.
Them that the Fox News cameras caught today, that was not gone. They got it today, days after the processing of the scene. So some other things that happened today, really, really important. Another note. Let's talk about this other note that came into KOLD. And I don't know, every time I hear something about these notes, I think more and more these are just, the worst of the worst, scamming parasites somewhere from overseas who know how to work, an encrypted IP address and have their ability to cloak their software and ask for Bitcoin. But this was a weird message today because it wasn't a ransom letter. They're not calling it that. And it wasn't a demand, so to speak. It was strange. And KOLD's news director spoke at length about what it was. It was not proof of life. She was clear about that. When Elizabeth Vargas on News Nation asked, did it talk about Nancy Guthrie's condition? The news director of KOLD said, I can't go into that. That was interesting. But then the news director spoke about how that new message came in. It was not an email. This is this weird web-based customer tip line, like put in your name, address, birth date. What's your comment, ma'am or sir? That's how it came in. Not very sophisticated, if you ask me. Certainly not somebody who's planning for a multi-million-dollar kidnapping, hit job. Doesn't seem like it to me anyway. And I'm not the only one who says that. But
$6 million. And Savannah Guthrie said, we will pay, and has to be done by 5 p.m. Now, the last time I sent $6 million because someone had kidnapped one of my family members, it was a very long process through the FBI, a very long process. My uncle went on TV with a bag full of money and said, here's the money and you will never see it. Never mind. That's Mel Gibson in Ransom. Anyway, it's not going to be that easy to get it and trace it. And they're going to be on crazy standby for when this money is received.
Yeah, it came in on a web form. And when name, email, and birth date were filled out, news director said name wasn't even on it. It was just a smattering of words. She wouldn't get more clear than that. Did not give a way to communicate. Once again, this was a communication that was not a communication, so to speak. Didn't give a way for the Guthrie family to ask for proof of life, to ask about steps afterwards, like, how do we get our mother back? Once again, amateur hour.
Unmarked 20s. Yeah. It was really rough on the fam.
Or it seems. And when I say that, I want you to hear from Dan O'Shea. Dan O'Shea is a former hostage negotiator. He's got a few miles on him in this business. And he may be the smartest voice that I have heard so far in these last 5 days of this very confusing, complex, mysterious, and tragic saga. Dan O'Shea talks about the kidnap business because it's what he works in for a living, right? He's the negotiator. He said, kidnap for ransom is a business. They're not idiots. They want their money. They do this. They have a protocol. They have a system. They're typically pretty sophisticated, kidnap for ransom. They don't typically beat the shit out of their victims and then ask for money without any other communication. They just don't operate in this way. They operate in a way where they can get their money. I want you to hear from Dan O'Shea because I think he says it far more eloquently than I do.
What do you make of these latest developments that in the first message from these purported kidnappers. They had said, this is our demand, no more communication. Then we have the family coming out twice with videos pleading for proof of life and a way to communicate. And now we have, it looks like, according to the news director of the station that received 2 messages, it looks like they're both sent from the same person. They are communicating again. So they've already changed at least one condition.
Yeah, but the reality is they have not provided proof of life. Again, this was stated in their previous show on News Nation by one of the, I think, FBI law enforcement personnel. This isn't like any case I've ever seen. And I've been tracking cases now for 20 plus years. My 2 years in Iraq, 04 to 06. But I've almost got a PhD in this, and I've never come across this case with, the demands sent to TMZ, sent to local news media. They need to go directly to the family. They're asking for millions of dollars on Bitcoin, which will be untraceable if that money's sent. And they're not acting in good faith. And I frankly think this group is going after the news media. They've created this 24/7 news cycle. And I think this exposure may be part of it. So you have to look at, the motives. Why would you go after, Savannah Guthrie is a very high profile figure, but, she's not controversial. Why would they go after her mother, who's, got a health condition? She's 84. But my bigger concern is the fact that they use violence at the scene.
Yes, because we know that Nancy's blood was found on the front stoop. She was hurt at some point while she was abducted.
Right. So from the get-go, the family cannot trust that what they're dealing with an honest broker from day one. Kidnapping is a business. Kidnap for ransom is a business, and people need to play by the rules. This group or this individual is not playing by the rules. Therefore, the family and the others will be hesitant to move forward because there are no good faith negotiations in this case.
Yeah. Listen, the Guthrie family has a very, very difficult decision, an excruciating decision to make in the next hours and days. Do they pay this ransom without proof of life, because the second message does not contain proof of life? Or do they risk something happening to their mother and having to live with the fact that...
Okay, I have a question for those of you that know about Bitcoin, because I do not. Okay. If you look at the screen, look at me. Look at me. Look at me, just like Lisa K. Ruitt's using the Google. This is what LKR would call a receipt. How much is $6 million in Bitcoin? All right, so you have the 6 million US dollar, and it becomes 86.33 in BTC. Is that 86.33 billion? Because you see how this goes up if you're looking at the screen. No way, if that's $86, they're going to take 6 million in Bitcoin to get 86 bucks. Is that what I'm looking at? Yes, I'm Googling exactly, pure blood. I am now a Bitcoin Google expert. Like all the doctors and lawyers you see on the YouTube, like they're like, well, I do know this happened one time and I was doing some research. Yeah, you Googled it. Yeah, you Googled it. Okay, so what is 86 Bitcoin? Woo! Somebody knows, but I don't. I have no idea. I know Ernie Shell was messing around with Bitcoin there for a while, and, well, it didn't do him real well.
They gave up perhaps the chance to save her. If you were advising this family, because we know the FBI is working closely with the Guthries, what would you tell them? What do you think the FBI...
6 million is 86 Bitcoin. So 6 million is 86 Bitcoin. Oh. Okay. 1 Bitcoin is almost $100,000. Whoa. Well, my super chat is open, and don't forget, I just became a new grandma on Saturday. If you want to put a Bitcoin close to 100,000 in for me, go right ahead. You're more than welcome. My DMs are open. I'll take Amazon gift certificates. I'll just take some, tip your bartender type of things. Or if you got some Bitcoin laying around, woo, woo.
Is advising them.
Well, you never pay without proof of life. Bottom line, especially not millions of dollars. The fact that they showed violence from the get-go, they have a propensity to violence. There's no guarantee. I'm just saying it's a very tough decision. I can't imagine what the Guthries are going through at this stage, but you cannot pay something without a proof of life. And this clock is ticking. Monday's going to be here very soon. But they have to stay strong because, and there's no guarantee that these email messages are even coming from people who have her. And if they do, there's no guarantee that, that they're going to make a deal to bring home her mother safely.
So take that for what you will. I think a lot of people are weighing in on their feelings about this whole ransom story being ancillary to the actual crime itself. These are just parasites trying to benefit off of this horrible circumstance, this horrible crime that's been committed against the Guthrie family. Maybe we should expect more of this in the future in the AI world that we're living in right now. The ability for scammers overseas to take Americans at will, and they have no compunction, wiping out senior citizens of everything they have. They have absolutely no compunction to do so. So why should they care otherwise? This may be part of our new normal. So
no, there is no new normal. No one is going to sit back, even though some people want people to. Okay, there are some people that want things just to slide. It's not a big deal. Oh my God, they bleed red too. Oh my God, you're being racist. You're being judgmental. You don't take an old lady out of her house. And she's probably in Mexico, if you want to know the truth. She probably is. She probably is. Which is only a hop, skip, and a jump from Tucson. And then demand money. Because guess what happens? Next thing you know, you're stealing Linda for ransom. You're stealing Susan for ransom. You're stealing my old ass for ransom. You're stealing preschool granny. Susan said she will not comply. Susan will not comply. She's not doing it. Well, hello, Jennifer Smiley. So glad you're here, baby.
As we process the feelings about the kidnap and the ransom notes and whether they're just red herrings, ruses, whatever they are, ancillary problems, one is already being prosecuted in California, right? One guy's already been arrested for inserting himself allegedly into this and demanding, ransom money. We'll see how that plays out. I don't hold out a lot of hope for a jury liking this guy if he ever gets to a jury. Today, more unusual behavior out in front of Nancy Guthrie's house. We've been to this rodeo a few times now, right? Monday, the crime scene is released after 30-ish hours. Mea culpa has already been given by the sheriff. He said, look, Monday morning, quarterback me. I'll take the heat. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should have brought in the feds earlier. Give the guy grace. This is a lot. This is a lot for this sheriff. This is a lot for this department. This is a lot for this community. They don't see a lot of high crime, and the world stage just descended upon him in real time. But he was gracious enough to say, I'll take the heat for that. And then suddenly crime tape went up again midweek, but only for 2 hours. Brian Enton watched the whole thing. He was right there, reporting it live on News Nation. And then the crime.
Personally, I am going to say I absolutely love the coverage that besides me, myself, and I has been doing. Go ahead and give me a round of applause. I love the coverage that Banfield and News Daddy have been doing. I think they're knocking it out of the park.
Crime scene tape went down again. And then again today, all the media And Brian says there's like 300 media out in front down that road, all trained on Nancy Guthrie's home and whatever activity might be there. Suddenly, the agents are pushing them all the way. Off you go, everybody down the road. We are clearing this road. They shut down an entire spate of road out in front of Nancy Guthrie's home and moved all the press down the way, right? All of that happened right at the same time, roughly, that news of the ransom message, rather, I should call it a new message adjacent to the ransom notes that came out before, all coming at the same time. So lots of analysts are speculating maybe there's something in the note and the agents are coming in. And they brought in, an FBI response unit, big vehicle pulling into the front of Nancy Guthrie's home. And people, agents are going in and out of the house at this point. So it's a very busy moment in the day. At the same time, there was an older couple that looked like they might have been neighbors, dressed in civvies, right? A woman and a man, and they are in the back area. I'll say yard, but the rough behind Nancy's beautiful manicured backyard and pool area. They're kind of among the cacti and the...
Listen to Banfield sounding like a horticulturist. She goes, the cacti. Let me explain something I'm sure all of you know from where you live. There is crime that happens in areas of cities that doesn't happen in other areas of cities. You know what I mean? Let's say you live like Jay Woody. What's up, Jay Woody? I haven't seen you in forever. You old stranger. I'll use Tulsa, for example. Okay, there is an area of Tulsa that is always got something going on. There's another area of Tulsa that has nothing going on. So I can say in my town, nothing goes on in this one horse town. Okay, nothing. So when you hear the neighbors say, like, nothing goes on here, and people go, are you kidding me? Tucson's a shithole. They got tons of crime. Not in her area. No, they do not. They don't.
And the rough terrain, and they're standing with about 3 different agents, maybe 4, but you can see them kind of pointing things out. These civilians, maybe neighbors, with these agents who are in uniform, looking in the back area. And there's been a lot of this, right? Like there's been sporadic looking, there's been helicopters flying above in the last several days. And I keep coming back to Monday, not even 30-ish hours after the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, they called off the search. Called it off. No need to search here, folks. Nothing to see here. And we won't be reigniting the search unless, things warrant. Well, we've had a few searches since, yeah. But why did they call off the search so quickly on Monday? I still go back to that. And I'm wondering, what did you know? Because an 84-year-old woman is missing. How could you not be searching everywhere for days? Typically, when someone goes missing, searches go on for days. And eventually they start pulling back. And it's very, very disheartening for the family. But this was like, nope, it's over. No searches permanently, he said. That's an odd thing to sort of think back on. And then I will come back to this again. I've harped on it already, and I will harp on it again because tonight Nancy Guthrie's car was towed. On Tuesday, my source told me Annie Guthrie's car was towed, and it was put into evidence. And yesterday, Thursday, February 5th, the sheriff in his news conference said, the car being towed, that's standard, as per warrant, and it's being processed. I don't think that's so standard. I don't think that's so standard. And not many people picked up on that. But I had a pretty fulsome conversation with Megyn Kelly about this. Megyn is no flies on Megyn Kelly. She's a lawyer. She does crime reporting. She's smart as a tack. She is sharp, right? She's smart as a whip, smart as a tack. And so I had this very significant conversation about things that were said and things that were not said in that news conference and where this might be going. Have a look.
Okay, so let's get to your reporting, because it was very clearly the gorilla in the room yesterday at that presser, where it came up 3 different times, 4 actually, 4 total, with the sheriff saying, we have no suspects, no persons of interest, and then some broadsides, quite clearly, I thought, at you. I think you agreed. I watched your show this morning without naming you. And some of the media are piling on, oh, if these influencers looking for clicks are reporting, irresponsibly. That's bullshit. You are not an influencer looking for clicks. I've known you 20 years. That's not who you are. So people are dismissing this.
Exactly, Andy. Big fat lie. We have an entire playlist of cases we have talked about for the last 5 years. And it is not a standard procedure to seize not just 1, 2 cars. 2 cars. 2 cars. Two cars. They have Annie's and they have Nancy's, and that has been confirmed.
This at their own peril. It is everyone there. Even the sheriff said, no one's been cleared. Everyone's a suspect. So it is not inappropriate to start where all law enforcement starts, which is with the family, and work out. That's what you're doing. You would be doing that even if your law enforcement source had not said that the brother-in-law may be the prime suspect. It's not inappropriate to ask questions about the family. It's actually imperative. So here's what the sheriff said. Let's listen to SOT 19B.
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect, and you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you can do some damage to that individual too. This is social media is kind of an ugly world sometimes.
Okay, so Ashley, are you standing by your exclusive reporting broken 2 days ago now that
3
a
things.
top
I
law
think we're at
enforcement
3.
official
Yeah, real early on.
3, okay, who's an impeccable source, told you that Tommaso Cioni, who is married to Annie Guthrie, Savannah's sister, may be the prime suspect in this case,
At this time,
and that the car that was towed and impounded was Annie Guthrie's car.
Yeah, the word that was used was towed and taken into evidence. I noticed that was actually confirmed yesterday. Car was towed and is being processed as per warrant. That was said by the sheriff.
Sort of. He didn't say it was Annie's, and the
car,
way he said it, Ashley, raised me a bunch of questions. The car, and he made it sound like it was at the crime scene.
The car. Now remember, you've got 2 attorneys on the screen, and Savannah's an attorney. For some reason, and probably because, just my uneducated guess, the high publicity of this case, I mean, this is a woman that's being held for ransom. That is not something that we see often. I mean, really, we don't. So they're real careful to say we took the car. Even when the press would ask, well, whose car? It was the car.
Which is odd. I don't know that Annie Guthrie's car was at the mother's house at any point. Oh, actually, here we have it, SOT 16. Let's listen to how he described it.
The car, the car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it.
Big lie. Big lie, big lie. He said, and it was court orders. The court wasn't asking for that effing car. The court didn't say, well, since you have nothing else to do, court order, go ahead and get the car. No, a warrant was obtained through a probable cause affidavit to seize for evidence the car. The car. And then it happened again with the victim's car.
Out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle.
Part of the search.
Well, I'll tell you what, people were higher than a cat's ass over the weekend that he was spotted at that basketball game. I'm like, good. Give him some downtime. It's better than the way he does press conferences. This is out of his league. I'm sure he's a great sheriff. I'm sure he's done a lot of great police work. This is out of his realm.
Warrant.
Well, and
scene.
at the home,
That would
you know,
speak to it being at Nancy's.
It just said at the home, and they've been at 2 homes. Law enforcement has been at 2 homes. And my source said definitively, car was towed and is in evidence. That's 3 days ago.
And that it was Annie's. That it was Annie's.
That's, and said it, Annie's car. Did not say the car, said Annie's car. The sister's car was towed and is in evidence. And he only would say the car.
He did not
at the
deny
home.
it.
He didn't deny it. He didn't deny a lot of stuff yesterday. He took pot shots, and I get it.
Okay, but let's
I
get to
it.
the big. Let's get to the big headline about Tomas and what your source. Because I heard your show. Have you been checking in with your
Yes.
source on that piece of your reporting?
Multiple times per day. And yesterday, I was told by the same source, still on target. And then he said, let me put it to you this way. If they're taking shots at you, you're standing on the target. That was his words.
So no wiggling, no backing down.
No backing down. No change.
And let me ask you this. Is he, even though I'm just saying he, I don't know whether it's he or she, but is this person, you say a top law enforcement source, but is this person in a position to know about what's actually happening in this case?
Yes.
By the way, since I'm an influencer like Megan Kelly and Ashley Banfield, if you're in the bushes and not commenting, can you please subscribe to the channel? Can you please subscribe to the channel? I only ask because it helps me stay in the old algorithm, and it helps you too, because then I show up in your algorithm. Your algorithm. So please hit the sub. And I put it on subscribers only. You know why? Because there's channels that I really enjoy. And then I find out I'm not subscribed to them anymore. I'm not subscribed. How did that happen? Oh, YouTube is real good about fixing stuff that's not been broken.
And then after the break, I was informed on day 2 that the sheriff's department tightened up like a noose, angry about leaks. And so if my information wasn't accurate, why would anybody be worried about leaks?
Mm-hmm. Who would care?
Who would care?
What Ashley Banfield,
right. Must be just some influencer.
is reporting.
So that also strengthened this information. I didn't need the strengthening, thank you, given the level of this source of mine. And by the way, I got asked yesterday, Megan, by somebody in the mainstream media, well, you're not working for a main network now. So have your standards dropped? I thought, right. Well,
Lord,
I've been at it 38 years. I don't think I'd throw my entire 4 decades away for one story. You know, I get it. People have to have their own headlines too. But I did find that pretty offensive. No.
Well, not
My
only that,
standards
but
haven't.
Never been asked this before. Jay said, by subscribing, does it influence your reputation? Oh, my reputation? Oh, honey, that shit the bed when I was in high school in the 90s. Let's not worry about that. Gail, hello. Did Annie's house have cameras? I'm going to go ahead and say probably so, but it's something they're not speaking about.
Notice something else. Some people who consider themselves close to Savannah, I've observed, have been particularly dismissive of this report. And I don't know if that's out of loyalty to her, like she wouldn't like this, or whether they've actually been in touch with her and she doesn't like this. Either way, with all due respect to Savannah and the family, it's fair reporting.
Yeah.
And you certainly could not go by what Savannah wants you to report in covering this case. Of course, she'd be inclined to defend her family even her in-law family members. And that there's no question you wouldn't depend upon one of the victims of the crime to guide your investigation as a reporter of the crime. So I've just noticed there's a strain of people who I know consider themselves friends of hers who have been particularly disdainful and are trying to move the coverage elsewhere. And that just can't happen.
Well, that would be a hit
that's not how this
to
game
integrity of what I do. Would I change the way I work because of who I'm covering? No, unfortunately. And it's been very difficult. We've had to cover, I remember one of the first stories that I covered in 1988 was someone I knew was nicked by the feds for cross-border drug dealing. And I had to put it on the news.
Oh.
That was one of my very first stories as a cub reporter. And it was
Wow.
like, well, baptism by fire, here we go. And so out it went exactly as the police had reported it to us at CJBN in Kenora, Ontario. But yeah,
Wow.
that would be a questionable move in journalistic scruples if I decided to couch the reporting because of who I'm reporting on. And it's hard. It is hard. All right. So there you have it. Look, things just keep developing late into the night. So I do these podcasts very late at night so that I can get the whole day summarized into one thing, as many things as I can pack in that happen in this particular story. But I hang on President Trump's words. And he said, I'm talking about a solution. We have some things I think that maybe will come out reasonably soon. FBI, DOJ could be definitive.
He said could be definitive. Jay said, truthfully, I wasn't expecting that answer, but you got the truth. We're good. I don't know what to make of this, but this is deadline day, my friends. This is deadline day. It is 11:02 a.m. here. And so is it 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. in Arizona? They don't do the time change, so I don't know. So either way, we have a short amount of time for the money to get to said kidnappers. Kimberly Mann said it's 9 there. Kimberly's in Tucson. Not right now. Jamie says 10. Kimberly's from Tucson. Kimberly, what time is it in Tucson? Because y'all got some funky times because you don't do the time change. Love Arizona, though. If it wasn't for my children living here, Arizona's my jam. Okay, Christina said it's 9. Okay, cool. Man, y'all are confusing the hell out of me. Either way, we have just a few hours for the ransom. Okay? Now, please set your reminders because Mama Bear said it's 12:03 here in Eastern Kentucky. Thank you for that info. That is so great. So I will figure it out for Arizona. That's awesome. Thank you for telling me what time it is in Kentucky, Mama Bear. Okay. Please set your reminders. And if anything breaks today, which I have a feeling it will, I will be live and we will be talking and communicating and throwing our ideas out and just listening to each other from a civil and educational approach. There you go. So you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm keeping my afternoon open in case we have to jump in for Nancy Guthrie because I really want her found. Okay, she's a grandma. She's a grandma. She does not need to be with some nasty ass people all taped up and shit. I can tell you right now, it makes more sense to me that she's in Mexico because whatever medication she needs, they can get it. They can get it just right off the street. I'm telling you. They can get it for her. And nobody is going to drop $6 million for someone that's dead. Okay, they're going to say, no, find my mom. But I mean, everything that's being reported today is this is going through. Well, you guys have a, Andy said, you don't think she's nearby? Well, I mean, Mexico is nearby. It's about an hour away. They're not being specific. I do know they said something. I know they did the manhole search and then they found a blue necklace. They said about 500 yards away, which kind of gives us a line of pattern how they got out. I don't know. We won't know until we know. Hey, you guys are the best. Thank you for being the best friends anybody could have here on these nasty YouTube streets. Nasty YouTube streets. Thank you so much for being here. Please set your reminder. Consider becoming a member. And I will see you back here probably in a few hours if what I'm hearing is correct. If not, I'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Time. You're the absolute best. Bye-bye for now.